Hello, and welcome to the Physical Therapy Owners Club podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Shields, and today I've got Alicia Backer, PTA, out of Thief River Falls, Minnesota. Alicia, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Nathan, for having me.
Yeah, congratulations. I don't have a lot of PTAs on the program, but you wrote,
I feel very privileged.
you wrote a great article in the April Impact magazine about becoming a community alliance champion, and you had some good insight that I really liked and spurred some thinking of my own, and thought it was worthwhile to bring you on and talk about the things that you brought up in the article, and want to get into that.
Okay, thanks.
Let's do it. Well, before we do that, tell us a little bit about you, where you're coming from, what you're doing nowadays.
Like you said, I'm from Thief River Falls, Minnesota. It's up in the northwestern corner. We're pretty close to Canada, so it gets pretty cold up here. Most people don't think there's actually humans that can survive this element, but we do. I work at a private practice, outpatient clinic, and I live in a town that's approximately like 9,000 people, so it's pretty rural. We have a lot of outside communities that come in to see us too. I graduated from the physical therapy assistant program in 2010. So I've been in the physical therapy community for several years now, and have had some good experience in a few different settings that kind of gave me some of the knowledge that we'll talk about today. I have 5 kids. Stepkids. Wow. And two of my own and 3 stepkids. So They keep me busy outside of all the other stuff that I do at work and for different parts of the physical therapy world. And do you want me to continue going on about how I got to know more about the topic, or?
Well, tell me a little bit about, do you do something in your clinic that provides a lot of outreach to the community? Like, so your article was about community alliances. What kind of things are you doing then in terms of reaching out to the community in your setting? Your supervisor allows you to reach out. I'm assuming you have different aspects that you're involved in the community. What do you guys do?
I'll kind of take it back a few years. Before I started working in private practice about 7 years ago, I worked for a larger outpatient clinic in a hospital setting. And while I was a part of that setting, I never was really involved in marketing opportunities, wasn't really involved in the process of planning it, what it meant, didn't really care.
Sure.
It was much more based on productivity and seeing lots of patients. And so I really didn't have any knowledge at all 7 years ago coming into working in private practice. But once I started working here, we're very community-based. We have a very high percentage of direct access patients. Cool. So instead of marketing to physicians, we spend more time marketing to the community. And so there's a large employer in town that probably has about 6,000 to 8,000 employees that has a great insurance policy, and
nice.
They give us a high percentage of their direct access business. And so we're involved a lot with them. We've partnered with them to create a work readiness program or injury prevention program for their business, which was a huge step in the door for people getting to know us just by coming in and being present and giving them that program.
Yeah.
We do a number of things in the community. We put on races. We host chamber events. A lot of our employees are coaches in the community. I mean, there's a lot of things outside of the marketing box that we do that you don't necessarily think are marketing. It's not really paying for marketing. It's being present. It's like your time rather than money. So
is there an expectation in your clinic that you do some of those things, that you lead out and either generate the race yourself outside of the ownership, taking responsibility for it, that the team members all are in the community doing certain things in the name of the clinic?
Absolutely. When we hire our kind of people, that's expectation is pretty much set in the interview, that is a big part of what we do and what makes our clinic successful and a part of our culture. We have a pretty unique culture, and we can touch a little bit on that later. But when we hire people, we make sure that they know that, our community events that we do, it's not required, but it is volunteer. And we look for people who are very highly engaged and high achievers that are looking to also do that type of stuff. And we have a great team. There's eight people that work here, and everybody is excited when we do events. It makes it fun. It doesn't make me worried when I delegate tasks, because I know everyone's going to follow through. I'm not great at delegating. I like to do everything myself. And I think that also helped me learn more about the right way to go about marketing, because involving your team, which are your huge stakeholders in this, is huge in your success.
Yeah. And I like what I'm hearing in that it's part of the interview process, it's coming from the culture you've generated. So I would assume if your supervisors were hiring somebody, if the owner was hiring somebody, and they shied away from doing community events and weren't that excited about it, they're just not a fit. They're not going to come in the first place. The fact that you bring it up in the interview process sounds like a huge part of it. You guys know who you are, and you're looking for a certain type of person.
Yes. When we hire people, I can't say that we wouldn't hire someone based on that solely, but it does sway us pretty heavily in one direction or the other. Just because we have made that mistake in the past, and it kind of does end up not working out in the long run. So you feel like when you have all the team members on board, everything feels good, everybody's enjoying it, things are going well. And then it only takes to have, one person that's not coming to things or isn't fully engaged to kind of bring down the morale. So,
and those people probably self-select more than anything. They probably, I just don't fit in. This isn't a fit for me. And it just seems kind of obvious. And it seems maybe like a natural part of your ways. But the fact that you guys make it part of the initial process, you're upfront about it. So it sounds like there's not necessarily an expectation that that the team members are going to generate community based events, but the people need to be excited about doing so.
Right. And that's an option too. You can probably hear of passion projects, or people work on passion projects, and that is basically what we say to them. We want you to be involved, but you're never required to plan anything, but if you want to, we're more than welcome. You're more than welcome to do so. We welcome all that, the ideas and the creativity. And anyone who brings something to the table, it's always talked about. You never shut it down, because there's always a way that you can figure out how to make it work. So.
Yeah. And the fact that you also have that culture that's open to that, because there's many scenarios where it is just about the productivity. We're talking about the numbers and let's just move on. How can we improve? And it's not as much about the culture so much, right?
Right. We actually have a staff meeting every week that we just hang out at lunch, and it's very informal. We talk about, certain stats and stuff, but everyone gets a chance to talk about whatever it is that they have to talk about that week. And a lot of times it'll be about planning our next event and how we should make it better and what we should do, or somebody will bring something new to the table that you're like, that's crazy. I never thought of that, but it's fantastic. So
yeah. So when you guys go out to these community events, what have you found are some musts do, or what kind of mindset do you have going into these community events?
I always just think about smiling and moving. It actually is a book as well. Sam Parker has a book called Smile and Move. And I don't know if you've ever read it. It's fantastic. And I really just stumbled across it, but I read it and it totally resonated with kind of how I live. And I just thought, this is amazing. Yeah. So when you go to a community event, if you're smiling, people are going to think that you're approachable and likable. And then moving means just to serve people. So just be engaged. And I don't know, I don't ever go to an event saying, hey, I work at Rehab Authority, I'm a physical therapist assistant, have you ever been to PT? It's just more like getting to know them. And then eventually it comes up, well, what do you do? And then you can talk about, oh, this is what you do, and this is why you're here. And if you ever need us, it's more of a casual, this is where we're at and we'd love to help you. But it's never really just pushing yourself on people.
Well, I think, you talk about this quite a bit in the article, is having confidence that in what you're doing can help a lot of that, right? It makes it easy to smile and be confident, and move. And if you have that confidence that I think lacks in our profession, knowing that we are the musculoskeletal experts, right? And I think we, for some reason or other, over the years, we've shied away from that. And some people might be afraid of saying that, but if you go to these events, knowing that you're the musculoskeletal expert in town, in your area, in your niche, you name it, makes it a lot easier to stand strongly in your space and be open to helping.
Well, and I think, I mean, I know when the patient comes in our doors and has set up that visit or that, free 10-minute consult, like once we get them in our doors, like I know we're going to help them, we're going to do the best that we can. I have all the confidence in our staff to do that. Right. It's getting them there. And, so we talk a lot about, we sell our culture and we sell the type of people that we are by just how we act and that we're likable and that you smile and we have fun. One of our core values is we have fun. That's like one of the top ones. So, I mean, you get the patients in here, they kind of forget why they're here and the pain that they're in, and they're just having a good time. And a lot of times they don't even want to leave. So it really isn't about selling what you do necessarily. It's just getting them in your doors.
Well, and so many people buy on what they feel, right? Buying is an emotional experience, and physical therapy is not exempt from that. And so I think if you can, when we talk about, and I've talked about this in a podcast episode a long time ago with Jerry Durham about increasing or improving the patient experience, simply focusing on them and the experience around physical therapy, not so much about the therapy itself, can improve engagement, can increase internal referrals, can improve culture and an ability to have a greater impact in the community.
Exactly. Culture is my favorite thing to talk about because it's just, I live in a great one. So I guess it's easy in respect, but I mean, you have to surround yourself with great people, which we talked about, and hiring, you got to make sure just because they're not the right fit for you doesn't mean they're not a good therapist, but we all have our place that we are meant to be. And then just, having expectations that, we're a high achieving, high energy, making relationship. It's all about building the relationships with people. And then they're going to keep coming back and they're going to tell other people to come here. So a lot of times when
go ahead.
A lot of times when patients will come in because their friend has told them to come here, they're like, my friend said I need to come here because you guys are so much fun. It's never initially because you're going to help my pain or, or you're going to make me feel better. It's because you guys are fun. And that we love hearing that.
Well, tell me a little bit about that. It's not necessarily related to your article, but are there certain things that your owner has done to generate that culture? Are there, whether it's a routine, you talked about the weekly staff meetings, and of course, your agenda lends to that. Your core values. So those are established and you guys probably talk about that quite a bit. What are some things that have generated this culture you're talking about?
First starts with good people. I mean, we really just have great people here. The environment that we're in, we have a pretty open clinic. We just have 2 private treatment rooms and we solely use those for evals, anything that requires an enclosed room, exposed skin, whatnot. And then if anyone feels uncomfortable in that area, but I would say there's a very small percentage of those people. And so we're kind of set up to have a great environment for not just us to communicate with each other, but patients to talk to each other. We do. We yell at everyone when they walk in the door, when they're leaving. It's like, they relate us to Cheers, the TV show. Everybody knows your name. And, when they graduate from therapy, we announce it over a megaphone.
You make it a big deal.
Yeah, we have a dance party.
Nice.
We have a graduation gown. We do like the extra. We're kind of extra. We have Fresh Cookie Fridays every Friday.
Nice.
We do dress up days a lot where we're just dressed ridiculous. And they just love that. So
I bet National Physical Therapy Month is a month of party for you.
Oh guys. Yeah, we have a chili cook-off and a pumpkin painting contest, so it's pretty intense.
Yeah, and you get the patients involved and all that good stuff.
Yeah, right? It's fun. We do a lot of competitions too. Just like sprinting in flippers or something, random. People like these awesome. People are crazy weird, but they're fun.
Yeah. Well, and the cool thing about your open gym concept is it's one thing to have it. It's the other thing is to get what we called crosstalk. So it's like
Yeah.
shouting to the therapist on the other side of the room or having a conversation over there. Inevitably, whoever's between me and that other person is going to get involved in the conversation too.
There's a lot
And
of banter.
yeah, a
Back
lot
and
of banter,
forth.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And
great.
we'd even generate that by having a whiteboard that would have like the trivia of the day
Yeah, we have
or
that.
something. Do you really?
Yeah, we
Oh
do.
yeah, cool. Yeah. So that if you don't have anything to talk about, there's something on the whiteboard to talk about, right?
Yeah. Yep. You
Yeah.
can think of so many things to put on a whiteboard. We do
Yeah,
like
super cool.
fun fact Friday where we have
Right.
a fact about each staff, or we have, whatever
Yeah.
competitions.
Cool.
And yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
That's awesome. Yeah. Culture is so huge. And that's what you talk about culture thinking that this is what's going to get the best aligned employees and retain them. But it carries over. The patients feel that as well, right? And improves
Right.
the patient experience and the desire to come. They might know that so-and-so down the street provides a certain amount of physical therapy that might be equal to, maybe even better than yours. But if they simply like coming to your place more 2 to 3 times a week, they're probably going to come to your place.
Right. That's the best part.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Therapists are competitive, right? Like just in nature,
Right.
we want to be the best.
That's right. Well, talk to us a little bit then about the marketing approach as you talked about in the article. You guys spend time. It sounds like you kind of know who your niche is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but your marketing strategy revolves around where those people are most of the time, right? Whether it's in the community or on social media, you're spending time in those spaces.
Yeah. And being, so rural, we do see from 0 to 100. We see women's health, we see vertigo, we see all the things. And so when we get a new therapist in our clinic or we're interviewing, we ask them that, like, what is it that you're really passionate about? Like, do you love peds, or do you love pelvic health, or, and so here you kind of need to have everybody, you have to cover all the niches per se, if you want to really maximize your success.
Yeah.
And so when we go out, if we have a new therapist that loves athletic rehab or sports injuries, well, obviously, where would you go? What direction would you go to market that? Or if you love women's health, where do you go to market that? Or how can we make that good? And so we just kind of take it case by case, and we market to that population.
I love the wording that you guys use, because it's not what, as you bring in that person, you talk to them about where their passion is and what they want to focus on maybe. But you don't then stop the conversation. The next question is, okay, where are you going to go to find them? Like, it's not, I think many times, maybe you had this feeling as a new grad, but I think newer grads come out thinking, I'm going to join this clinic, and some other person's going to provide me new patients, and they don't have to do any work for that. You know where I'm coming from, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
You kind of have to push, especially if it's a newer grad, you kind of have to like encourage them along and just keep motivating them to like, all right, what's the next step? We just had one here, start women's health program. And that's an area that's not, doesn't have a lot of PTs that are interested in that.
That's true.
Area, I guess.
Yeah.
And
but
so
there's a huge need.
A huge need, and super rewarding. And so she's kind of working through that process, and she said, so what are you going to do next? She's like, oh, I know I need to do it, but I just just go get it done. Like, take action.
Right. Yeah. And so I love how you set them up for that success, recognizing that they have some responsibility and some accountability to develop their niche, to develop that growth, and that this isn't going to just be handed to them. They have an active role in that.
Yep. Have some skin in the game.
Right. And it was at the very end, and there's just the last paragraph. You talked about the importance of a marketing calendar. Talk to me about that.
Well, I mean, COVID really challenges the marketing calendar, because when everything's like closed down for a year, you kind of just like fall off the wagon.
Yeah.
But we talk about that in our weekly staff meeting. So we talk, we have, in the year, we know, like, in a time frame, we're doing these things. Like, say around Christmas time, we always do this. We always have like a Christmas dress up week. And then in the summer, I always have a friends and family appreciation day. We're in the big parade in town in July. We host a 5K in August, you know, so we're constantly talking about what's next and what more do we want to do. And they're having a CrossFit challenge in town. Like, how do we get involved in that? Or there's some kids that want to do a scholarship because of mental health awareness. Like, how do we help them? You know, so like you hear about something and it doesn't always work where you can't necessarily get involved, but it's worth giving it a try.
Well, the cool thing is that you're talking about it on a routine basis as well, and you're looking ahead on the calendar. So many times, say something like Halloween comes up and you start talking about it on October 27th, or like, what are we going to do in 4 days?
Exactly.
Halloween, right?
And whereas I'm sure you guys don't love it.
No, then it's kind of sucks because now we're under the gun and there's pressure. But I'm assuming that these events don't take you guys by surprise, and you're able to fairly well prepare for them, and that makes it more fun.
It does. And when everybody is on board, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, it makes it so much easier, right? Especially if you've done it before. Like if you have some traditional ththings that you're doing,
yes.
Okay, you know what we got to do, and you know what everyone's strengths and weaknesses are, and you play to people's roles. Everyone knows what they need to do. Then it's also at that time a lot easier to add on and make it an even better 5-star, 6-star, 7-star experience, right?
Well, I think that's a lot of the challenge when somebody's maybe opening their own practice or looking into starting a marketing plan, is they want to do so much. Like, we got to do this, we got to do this, but you're better just choosing the populations in the areas that you'll receive the most return from, and also knowing your payer mix and where you should focus most of your energy there, and then build on it. Yeah. And so that's kind of what got me a little bit more knowledgeable on this subject. Is when I started working here, it was just one PT and I, and he opened it, and we quickly needed help in the front office area. So it was 3 of us for a long time. And I'm also the clinic administrator. Okay. And so I take some of the buffering between the rehab director and the rest of the staff. But I was doing everything. Like, I'm an achiever and I'm a maximizer, and I like feel really good at the end of the day if I like get all these things done. Right. And if I don't, I feel really lousy about it. Yeah. And so I wanted to do everything, and I wanted to be a part of everything. And I'm really bad at delegating tasks, or I used to be, because I don't always trust that people are going to do them as good as I can, and, you know, whatever. But I got to the point where I really started like not enjoying them as much because I was feeling tired and I was feeling burnt out. And I realized that I needed to rely on people and trust that they were going to do as good of a job, if not better. And it turned out that way. So I did start, you know, like encouraging other people to take on more roles with these different events. And I have my one area that I really love. I love running. So I love doing the 5K. Somebody else like loves planning Halloween. So delegating those tasks so that you continue to enjoy them rather than just feeling like it's a bunch of work was huge for me. So
you sound like a lot of burned out PT owners that I know.
And I don't have any ownership in this clinic.
I know. That's amazing. That's great. Cool. But it's the same thing with most owners, and maybe your owner feels the same way, or he or she doesn't feel that way because you do all that for him or her. But
maybe not anymore.
Yeah, right. But it's that same thing. I got so many things on my plate, and I know I can do them better if I just do them myself. But then you can only do so much. And for me, it had to come down to, could they do 80%? Would I be happy with 80% of what I could do? And if that's okay, then let's hand it off. Let's systematize it if possible, or just find someone who gets excited about that. Because for me, and like you mentioned in the article, for me, like, I'm not excited about marketing. I like going to the doctor's office to talk to the doctor who doesn't want to see me, and get past the front desk person whose job it is to deflect me and redirect me. I don't want to do any of that. Right.
That's where I'm at too.
Right. Yeah. But I had a PTA she was awesome as a PTA. But when I talked to her about marketing, she's like, oh, I would love to do that. So inevitably there are people on your team who have strengths and get energy from things that don't give you energy and are not your strengths. And you have to kind of rely on those people. And that's how you get a diverse marketing strategy in place. That's how you expand your presence in the community, right?
Right. You're talking about calendar. That's kind of where we started with this conversation. I think it's just revisiting it and staying consistent. You don't have to have 50 things on the calendar for the year, pick something once a month, big or small, and just try and be consistent with that. And then you can always add to it.
Yeah. And even you could even use, and you talked about payer mix in the article in here just a little bit ago. If you're finding a certain payer mix, like you don't want to, we're a business, right? So if you don't want to go towards the low payers all the time. So if you know where the insurances are that pay better, and you can find your niche within those and find out where those patients live and work and breathe, then that can make things a lot easier on the business.
Right. And we have a couple of businesses in town. The one I talked about, who has basically no medical responsibility. It's basically 100% free healthcare, and that's all direct access. So that's huge for us. But then you also have another large employer that has high out-of-pocket responsibility, So yes, of course we market to them and we want to see them, but we don't spend a ton of our energy over there. We that's why we started the program with this business, because we wanted to keep them coming through our doors.
Yeah. And smart in that way, because every owner has to deal with that if they're taking some kind of insurance. But even if they're not taking some kind of insurance, they want to find their ideal client. And that ideal client could be a certain athlete, it could be a geriatric population, it could be a certain patient within a insurance payer.
Right.
But knowing who that is and targeting your message towards them will generate more of those. And I think it also has some carryover to generate more patients from the other ones that aren't your niche.
Absolutely. There's definitely crossover.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we covered a ton of stuff today. Is there anything else that you remember or recall from the article or from your personal experience that you think is valuable in reaching out to the communities and establishing good relationships?
Well, I mean, you definitely spend, what is it, like the 80-20 rule, 80% of your time preparation or preparing for, in this case, your marketing plan, and then 20% is actually doing the work. So I think you just need to spend time thinking about these different things, like making sure you got good people, and then utilizing your assets, like using your people, and then just get out there and find things to do that you enjoy. I mean, there's literally nothing on our marketing calendar that I don't look forward to.
That's cool.
It doesn't really seem like work. Yeah, it takes some energy, and you usually are exhausted after the event's over, but I would do that 100 times before going and talking to a physician. And it's nothing against doctors, but I literally would rather watch paint dry.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like, based on your experience now, and to flip that 80-20 principle, what your 20% of work is that gets you 80% of the results.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
So you kind of found a groove there after, you've probably been to some community events where you're like, I won't do that again. Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Let's not waste our time on that. But
exactly.
Let me tell you this is one thing I want to leave you with is, the last year has been challenging for everybody, right? And we're all kind of coming out of it now. We're feeling really good here at our clinic, finally. But I think everyone has just gotten a little bit lazy, maybe it's safe to say, with, getting out and about and putting in the extra effort and doing more than people expect. So, like the whole Zoom meetings, like get face-to-face if you can, go and see people and start doing these things again. And don't just say, oh, well, we didn't do it last year, I don't know if we want to do the race this year. Like, just do it, because you end up doing it and you realize this is why we did it in the first place. It's so rewarding.
Yeah, exactly. That's cool. Well, thanks so much for your time. Thank you for the article. If people want to read it, it's in the April Impact magazine. There's a lot of good information in there.
Thank you.
If people wanted to connect with you and maybe talk to you a little bit more about it, Alicia, how would they do that?
Yeah, I'll just give you my email. It's Backer, Backer, @rehabauthority.com.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Nathan.